Yakov getting to the other big narrative coming from this game. Yakov, we appreciate you being here as always. O-line, not yet reminding me of the 1980s Hogs. Yakov, always able to work in yesteryear. So,
well, they got some work to do. And I think that obviously, I think the bottom line will look a lot better when Donovan Jackson, a 2-year starter and all Big Ten player, is at left guard instead of Austin Siereveld, a redshirt freshman who only played a few plays against Missouri in the Cotton Bowl last year. That was his only experience before playing in this game, starting in this game. And it seemed, they talk about run fits a lot, that things didn't look good. And, to me, run fits, that's something that you cover like the first week of preseason practice, and then you move on to, bigger concepts that if they're flunking run fits, then, what does that tell you? I don't know. But again, it's got to be better. I mean, I'm standing there with a buddy of ours, Dave Briggs from the Toledo Blade, about midway through the game. And Dave and we're both Ohio State graduates, and he comes up and he always kids me, the lads aren't looking too good today or something like that is what he'll say. And I'll say, well, you're missing Jackson and you're missing, you got Tegrit Shabola starting at the other guard. He goes, stop it. Their backup should be able to line up and mow over Akron. And he's probably right. I mean, Akron was 2-10 last year. And, if they get to 4 wins this year, they'll have a parade, down, past, past the rubber plant there. So, I just, it's got to be better. It's just so many plays. You put Judkins in the game, and this is a guy that ran for 1,500 yards last year at Ole Miss. Comes in the game for Ohio State against the worst team on their schedule, and his first 3 carries are 1, 1, and 0. It just isn't what it's supposed to be, and it better look a lot better when Donovan Jackson gets in there. Let's just leave it at that.
I will say, you look what Judkins did. It wasn't as expected, but it was exactly what he did last year at Ole Miss. I mean, it was 4.3 yards per carry again last year for Ole Miss and 4.2 on Saturday for Ohio State. Meanwhile, Travion Henderson averaged 8 yards a carry with a long of like 21 yards. So he was consistently getting his yards. And I think the numbers would look a lot better if it was just Travion carrying the ball. But Quinshon's still getting his feet. And I think, say what you want, they're going to be better in game 2. That's just what happens. We could go back and see like how often does Ohio State just light it up in the running game on game 1, and they went for 170 yards in this one and averaged like 5.5 yards a carry. And if they can do that each week, they'll be okay. There's 5.2. They'll get better than that. Last year was 143 against Indiana, 172 against Notre Dame in 2022. 202 at Minnesota in 2019, and then you get into 2021. Then you get to the years where they had a running quarterback or a quarterback that could run. Nebraska, they opened up with 215 yards. Florida Atlantic, 237 yards, which only 4.9 yards per carry in 2019 in that opener, and they were better than that this week. So I think it's going to get better. They're still, I say what you want about the offensive line. It was 3 guys making their first start in Ohio Stadium. It was Austin Siereveld, the first time he's ever played in a game. So, like, that's not insignificant. And Tegrit Shabola, his first start. These are all things that they've all gotten their firsts out, as Ryan Day likes to say. So next week will be they'll be much more experienced, or this week they'll be much more experienced. I think this is going to be something that builds, and then as people start to defend Chip Kelly's running game better, then they do stuff off of that. So I'm interested to see how it develops. I know there are a lot of positives. I think you need to see some more home runs out of them, but mainly more than anything else, just more consistency out of Quinshon Judkins and I think you saw that in the second half. More of the second half, less of the first half, I think is what you're going to see moving forward.
You brought up the FAU game, which was Justin Fields' first game. I saw some comparisons on social media between this game against Akron and the Buckeyes' performance in that game. However, even though it was 45-21, it was 28-0 out of the gate in the first quarter. And I tend to look at those type of efforts different when, okay, there are meaningful snaps, it's no score, and you blow out a team and then you cruise. Maybe the team shouldn't cruise. Maybe they should complete and continue to step on the gas. But I see that different than coming out sluggish, trying to figure things out, and then finally kicking it into gear against an inferior opponent. So I would rate the FAU effort to be somewhat decidedly better.
Yeah, and that one, that was, I'm looking at the score. It never seemed the 45-21. It never seemed like it was that close. And I'd forgotten that it had been 28-0, as opposed to like a 77-31 against Oregon State. That was, high scoring, but nothing, not much positive coming out of that one, just based on what the defense did. So I think the offensive line is going to be a concern all season long because it's so vital. But I don't know that those concerns are always going to be valid. I think people remember the Missouri game and they're just focused on anything bad that happens is the fault of the offensive line not being very good. And rather than maybe the running back could have done this, or the design wasn't what the design itself, or God forbid defenders make a good play. I think there's a lot of reasons why the running game isn't always explosive, and it isn't just the offensive line. That's the I think the easiest area to blame, but it's also the one when the offensive line is going good, you know it. So if the running game isn't going well, it's easy to blame the offensive line. It's not always wrong. I just think I've been saying it since spring. I think this offensive line is going to be much better than last year, and so I'm going to have to just stay out on this limb and die on this hill.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.